Good evening and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101 on a Monday night, Monday evening, Monday morning, Monday afternoon. Welcome to Politics 101 wherever you are. Uh, Good evening to those of you in Guyana. Good evening, Buxton. Buxton has been very much in the news recently for obvious reasons. We are going to be talking about that tonight. Good evening, BV, Better for Walkton Triumph, LBI area. We are going to be talking about that land issue there in BV tonight. Good evening to all of you on the east coast of Demerara. Golden Grove, good evening. Good evening, Enmore, Haslington, Nabaklis. Good evening to you in Annandale, Lusignan. Welcome to Politics 101, Victoria, Belfield area, and of course, Ansgrove, Clonbrook. If you're joining us from Mahaika, well, Mahaika, there are several sub-villages in Mahaika, whether it's Unity or wherever you are in Mahaika. Good evening, Maikoni. Well, Maikoni considers themselves part of Berbice. Good evening, West Berbice. Good evening, West Berbice. Good evening to you if you're coming to us from across the river, across the Berbice River, Quarantine, Lower Quarantine, Upper Quarantine, Central Quarantine, or you're down the river, where some of my people come from, the Hinds, down the Berbice River. If you're down the Kanji River, good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to Politics 101. If you join us from Ithaca, over there, Blairmont, and the west side of the Berbice River, good evening and welcome to Politics 101. If you join us from Kanji, Politics 101 is on tonight. Spread the word, share the link, and let them know we're on a Monday night. The WPA has them hollering and bawling all over the place. I wonder why. Oh, we are going to figure that out. Welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us from the wider Caribbean, our Caribbean, we are part of the Caribbean, the wider Caribbean, we are part of the greater Caribbean. Welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us from Haiti, the first Black Republic, Haiti. Welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us from Barbados, I know. Big uproar. Sister Mia gave a speech at the Nelson Mandela address, and she did not mention the role of Guyana under Forbes Burnham. His role in the African liberation struggle is a little bit, I don't think she doesn't know, but she has aligned herself in Guyanese politics, internal politics. And so when it comes to Guyana, there's not much objectivity going there for Sister Mia. How can you not? Oh, Lord. I mean, Burnham and the PNC played a major role of all the English-speaking Caribbean countries. And in terms of the larger Caribbean, maybe only Cuba played a bigger role in the African liberation struggle than Guyana. I remember, in 1976, I think it was Robin Jackman, a South African cricketer who would go and play the Currie Cup in South Africa. And he was touring with the English team in 1976, Mayor Motley. Let me school you. And the team came to Guyana, and Mr. Burnham said, you all can play if Robin Jackman is in your team. And so they were banned from playing in Guyana. And where did they go next? And they played Barbados. Barbados did not have as rigid an anti-apartheid policy as the PNC under Burnham. And so it's interesting that Mia Motley from Barbados would give a speech in which Guyana played a much stronger role than Barbados, and she would not mention the role that Guyana played because she don't like the party She may not like the party that Burnham's party, as she has gotten herself entangled in Guyanese politics. Um, my goodness, my goodness, it's part of our politics that I can't handle. We have our differences, our political differences inside of our countries. We had our differences between countries. We have had ideological differences in the Caribbean, political differences. But 60, 70 years on, we have to bring those differences, put them in context, and begin to see the larger Caribbean as important. I mean, you all know my party has had its differences with the PNC and Burnham and the Burnham era, and people are talking about who joining who and who this. No. We have had our differences, and we continue to have our differences. But differences can be overcome to see the larger picture. The larger picture. Come on, Mia Motley, you ought to know better. You ought to know better. You can't ignore that Forbes Burnham's PNC played a major role. As far as the English-speaking Caribbean is concerned, they played the most major role in confronting apartheid. The great Sir Gary Sobers from Barbados, West Indian, visited Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, and he came to play cricket in Guyana. And Burnham said, "Not here until you apologize." And he apologized, and he was able to play. It is not that the others didn't play a role. Jamaica played a very important role. Jamaica was banning goods that were made in South Africa since in the late 1950s. The PNC under Burnham was to follow Jamaica. Jamaica took the lead in that regard. And when Manley took power, Jamaica upped the ante on apartheid. Forbes Burnham and Michael Manley were the two most visible voices in the 70s fighting for a new world economic order, a new world political order, and taking a stance against apartheid. And like I said, Mia Motley ought to know that apartheid cricketers played in Barbados when they couldn't play in Guyana, meaning cricketers who visited South Africa during that period. And I remember, like I said, the 1976 tour of England to the West Indies. And so we can't allow our petty political differences or even our profound political differences for us to rewrite history or silence history. Burnham is an enigma as much as, Manley was an enigma, or Eric Williams was an enigma, or Errol Barrow, or Eric Gary. Today is March 13th. Today is 44 years since the Grenadian Revolution overthrew Eric Gary. Ideological differences, political differences. Gary was an enigma. Later on, some of the revolutionaries, if you go to Grenada now, some of them are in the party that succeeded Gary's party, the New National Party, led by Brother Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell himself was part of the NJM that overthrew Gary. He fell out with the NJM. I remember 1979 going to America and meeting Keith Mitchell. He was then a professor at Howard University, and he was part of the NGM group in Washington, D.C. And then so his party is a successor party of Eric Gary's party. And some of the revolutionaries like Peter David and so on are now part of the NNP. So if you look at where the left wing from the 70s and 60s are now, a lot of them are either in the mass parties that they opposed or they're in some relationship with them. Our party, the WPA, is the only left-wing party from the 70s that is still standing as a party. Still standing as a party. And so we have to deal with the Burnhams and the Garys and Eric Williams and Verboords and so on. We have to put them in context. They're not aliens. They are part of our Caribbean. But to take a one-dimensional approach to the analysis of Burnham is crazy. Burnham was too complex, coming from a society that is too complex, a region that is too complex to take a one-dimensional thing. So when you hear people say, oh, Burnham was a dictator, okay, and what else was he? And then they stop. They use a different method to deal with Jagan. Jagan's only sin for some of them was that he was communist. Did Jagan behave in some ways similar to Burnham? Yes, if you examine Jagan carefully. Jagan was a communist who used race as a mobilization tool. And why not? You live in a racialized society. So here was a communist believing in an ideology that dismisses race, mobilizing along racial lines. Jagan refused to take Guyana into the West Indies Federation because he felt Indians would be a minority. Jagan mobilized along racial lines. So if you want to understand Burnham and Jagan, you have to do so within the context of the time, the moment. Anyhow, where we are this evening, good evening, the WPA has them hollering in Guyana. A small party that they dismiss. Suddenly, after 4 public meetings, has the president crying and begging, has the attorney general crying and begging and calling on the police to lock up WPA members. If you all didn't know the name Ogunse before, you all know it now. The head of the armed forces came out, hollering. The private sector came out, hollering. Private sectors, hollering. And unfortunately, some of our sisters and brothers in the PNC, Indian Guyanese sisters and brothers, they also seem to have some problems. Sister Gita condemned Brother Ogunse. I don't think she paid attention to what Brother Ogunse said. And then you have Brother Ganesh and Brother Siram, Brother Ubraj and Sister Natasha coming out with a statement condemning Rhonda Lane for what at best I think is a kind of gaffe. She was making a point and she made it in a way that made Indian Guyanese feel uncomfortable, and also some African Guyanese uncomfortable. But here is the story. Here is the story, and I want to deal with this quickly. When Sister Amanza Walton was charged by the PPP with making racial statements, the Indians in the WPA did not come out and put out a statement condemning Sister Walton. I, along with Vincent Alexander, took the lead in defending Sister Walton. The WPA gave me the freedom. We didn't deliver Sister Walton to the PPP. We didn't deliver. We protected her when she thing. And I didn't see Brother Ganesh and the other brothers putting out a statement condemning Sister Walton. They either agreed with what Sister Walton said, or they may have disagreed, but because she's from the PNC, they didn't put out a statement against her. When Brother Ubraj Narain was being attacked recently, again, the WPA took a strong position in solidarity with him. I was in front of the court when he was released and walked with them as they walked to City Hall. We didn't help to deliver Brother Walton, Brother Ubraj to the PPP. Race is a complex issue, and people deal with race from their own standpoint. And like I said, they wanted to lynch Amanzo, and we didn't allow them to. We wrapped our arms around her and said, you will not touch this sister. Now a working class sister, Sister Rhonda Lane, a working class sister, made a statement that the brothers and sisters considered to be in bad taste. And they decided to go public with a statement against her. They didn't go public with a statement against Amanzo or Ubraj, because Ubraj was being charged by the PPP for making racial statements. In fact, they charged him. He's before the court. And I didn't see the Indian brothers and sisters, coming out against Brother Ubraj. But no, a poor working class African woman on a platform. She's not a major party person. And she made a statement that they found distasteful. And they could have quietly behind the scenes worked that out, realizing the opposition. But they went, in a sense, the brothers have delivered Rhonda to the vultures. They have given her as a prisoner to the PPP. The PPP itself didn't come out against Rhonda. I think it's the political right, the constitutional right, the legal right of the brothers and sisters in the PNC to protest against what they feel is wrong. I grant them that right. Well, not grant, I can't grant them that right, but I grant them the space to carry out that right. I'm not angry at them. They exercised their right. That they were, and they are, incensed by something that was said on the WPA's platform. When I spoke with Ganesh, I told him that I take full responsibility on behalf of the WPA for what Sister Rhonda said. But by then the statement was out. So in a sense, there's a kind of inconsistency here, right? When they wanted to get at Amanzo, all of us wrapped our arms around Amanzo and said, not the sister. When they wanted to get at Ubraj, all of us wrapped our arms around Ubraj and said no. And now, when it comes to working class woman, we throw to the wolves. The PPP didn't come out charging. They may have done so, but they didn't. It was brothers from the opposition. It's unfortunate that they took it to that level. They took it to that level. But that's politics, and we move on. As I said, we in the WPA, we take responsibility because she was on our platform. But I am not joining in delivering her to the wolves, delivering her to the vultures. I wrap my arms around her and will protect her, defend her, And I hope that, we can deal with issues like this. My position is clear. Our position is very clear. We're not fighting among ourselves in the opposition. And at a time when they're coming hard and fast against Ogunsi, for our brothers to then put that into the mix really doesn't. And I hope we are able to work it out. I would have dealt with it differently. As I said, I gave the examples of the inconsistency. If we could defend Amanzo, we could defend Rhonda. If he could protect Amanza, we could protect Rwanda. If he could defend and protect Ubraj, we could defend and protect Rwanda. Sometimes in struggle, you have to be very tactical about how you move. And so I want to say Rwanda has our full solidarity now with our brothers and sisters on our side of the aisle, throwing our over the fence to the vultures. We have to be very careful when we're doing those things. Welcome to Politics 101. I want to just put that on record. On record. I don't use the C word. I hear people use it, and I don't use it. Whether it's used in India or used wherever, I don't use it because it has a negative connotation. But people, I've heard Indian people use it very loosely. So now we get to Brother Ogunse and the WPA, now that I've gotten that out of the way. After 4 meetings, the head of state, the head of the armed forces, the attorney general, all the business committees have now discovered that the WPA is alive. Oh, yes? Are we alive? Or are we a dead party since when Walter Rodney died? Oh, we're alive. We're alive. You all figure that out now. You all figure that out now. You see, what the PPP is pushing back against is this. They've been getting a free pass in the Black community. They've been going in and doing what they like, killing people, taking away people's liberty, taking away Prodigy money, carrying on for 3 years. And we've been petting it. And we in the WPA decide very carefully that after 3 years, we're not tolerating this anymore. And we decide that we are going to put our party on the line. And we're going to tell the PPP, you stop it now. And that is what our meetings have been about. To tell the people, you're stopping it now. You're not shedding one more drop of Black blood in Guyana. You're not going down one more home without a response from our people. You know, people always say, well, you know, Black people and doing nothing, but Black people don't do nothing. People don't go and do things if the leadership not behind them. Well, we decide to give leadership in that regard. And to say, we're going to defy you. And our position is that what stands between the opposition, and African Guyanese and the government are the armed forces. And we decide to address the armed forces directly. And to say you all are our brothers and sisters. And you all have to give an undertaking that you all are not going to level your guns at your people. That is what the WPA said. That is what Ogunse said. That the PPP can be managed once they are not guaranteed that the army and the police will carry out their biddings. And we decide to talk to our brothers very seriously when they take off that uniform. And they want some sugar or some rice or it's a neighbor they got to turn to. And so we decided that we are going to talk to them. We are going to talk to them directly. Brother Severin Peters, a lawyer, said you got an army of lawyers to defend against the charges the police will come up with in response to the outrage. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much. And we decided to tell the opposition community that you all know ought to be prepared to take action. And we signal civil disobedience and non-cooperation with the government. And that is what has got them jumping. They suddenly realize that their leaders and parties other than the PNC, which they've been playing around with the PNC, trying to tell the PNC that, look, you can win election if you get crossover votes. And you can win if you get crossover votes. And the minute they said that, they got on the next side of their mouth. Burnham is a devil. How the hell the PNC will get crossover votes when you're poisoning Indian minds against them? Well, the PNC has to talk for itself. We in the WPA are very clear. We are not, and I'm saying it here loud and clear, we are not going to sell the dignity of Black people for a couple of crossover votes. Understand that. We're not playing that game. We would like crossover votes, of course. If there are PPP people who want to come and vote for us, yes. But we are not paying the price that they want us to pay, which is to remain quiet while your people are being slaughtered because you want a few crossover votes. What kind of fool is you? Brother Dick Gregory would ask. Playing games with your people's dignity and your people's lives. Collateral damage. We will say nothing about Quindon Bacchus and Orrin Boston and Peter Headley and Lewinfield and Myers and Robin Simon and the brothers in Golden Grove. And that young man that they beat up at Woodley Park. About the monies that they took away from it, Padaji. We will say nothing about that because we want some crossover votes. Go to hell. I'm telling you here tonight. I'm telling you all here tonight. And by extension, telling them, no way, Jose, as they would say. The gauntlet has been thrown down. The Joint Chief of Staff, the chairman, he accused the WPA of racial division. That's not your job. As head of the army, that's not your business. Your business is to protect the borders of this country, to protect all of the citizens of this country, not to threaten one set of citizens. And in case, Brother Best, you don't remember, you came from the womb of a Black woman. You were raised in the Black community. We educated you. You didn't get to be chief of staff because of the PPP. It's because of us. We nurtured you. We educated you. And now you want to be one-sided. If you are saying that there should not be any ethnic division, talk to everybody. Talk to the PPP who are using the forces under your watch for political purposes. But no, you don't talk to them. You talk to us in the WPA. I want to make it very clear. We love you. We love you and we love all those brothers in the forces. And whether you like it or not, Brother Ogunse and the rest of us will say loud and clear, do not turn your guns against us. Want to say to the PPP tonight, not one more blood. We have called for civil disobedience. And if one drop of Black blood is shed after tonight, if you don't share that oil money equally, if you don't give back Ipadaji their money, we're going to up the ante. You've gotten away with a lot of nonsense, PPP. You wonder and worry why we went to Buxton? 3 of us on that platform are from Buxton. The way that meeting was being held, my neighbor Stringberry there is there, a barn and grove, just there. And you are asking why we are in Buxton? Why are you in Buxton? What do you know of Buxton that only Buxton knows? Of course, you can go to Buxton. It's part of Guyana. You can go and hang out with your friends and your party members and whoever they are. That's not my business. You can go. But I'm telling you, when you go there, know that they don't like you. They don't want, they would prefer you don't go there. You're in enemy territory, political enemy territory. So you can go. Nobody stops you. But from now on, know that you're not going to a village of slaves. Know that you're not going to a village of cowards. Know that you're going to a village of upright Africans. You're asking me why I am going to Buxton? What the hell do you know of Buxton who only Buxton knows? We are very clear. Very clear. The IPAS has to stop this confounded nonsense, and it stops now, Irfan. It stops now. Anil, you all get away with too much for too long, and you all want to manipulate us and telling us about crossover vote and all those kinds of things so that we remain quiet while our people are being slaughtered. Stops now. I say to you Africans, stop now. Don't worry about the few who on the other side. You all have a stronger voice than them. Drown them out. Drown them out. They've always been traitors. You can't stop that. Raise your voice louder than them. They're talking about us telling the army and the police. When the PPP was telling Indians that the Minister of Home Affairs, Ramjatan, is a Nimakaran. Where were you, Mr. Best? When they were telling the Prime Minister, the Deputy Commander of the Armed Forces, that he's a Nimakaran, where were you, Mr. Best? Were they not interfering? Were they not setting the stage for anarchy? When Mr. Jack, you tell Indian people, chase Nagamutu, chase Granger, chase Ramjatan, where were you? When they were beating your police at Bushlat and Bath, where were you? When your police was kneeling on the back of a black woman, where were you? You come from a black woman, Mr. Best. Where were you? But you feel confident to point your finger at the WPA? Well, keep pointing it. Where were you when a police constable was spat in the face? Where were you, Mr. Best? Why you didn't charge them with terrorism? Why you didn't tell them about political division? We love you, Brother Bess. We love you. You want to talk to me? You can get my number and show you. You know it. You have it. You have it. Call me and let's talk as brothers. Because I got something to tell you. It stops. The IPAS against an entire ethnic group, half of Guyana, it stops. Because the signal has been sent to our people. Defend yourself. Don't worry about the private sector and all of them. Don't spend your money. You all know who belong to the private sector. Don't spend your money on their business. Don't spend your money on their business. Punish them. We are ready for this. We have stayed for 3 years. We are ready for this. This is not about Ogunse. This is about black people. This is about opposition. This is about human beings. They can analyze the WPA for how much they want to analyze. You see, all the analysts are coming out. There's one Indian brother who was the moral authority to be critical of us, Brother G.H.K. Lal. He said Ogunse went too far, and I'm not going to quarrel with him. I don't agree with him, but you know why I'm not quarreling? Because he has been critical of the excesses of this government. And if he's critical of us, even though we don't agree with him, I raised my hand and said, all praise to you, brother, for being objective. But the others, Ravi Dev and all of them, and I love Ravi because he knows better than to equate democracy with election. Because he thinks that they can win an election, they can rig the voters list and get 3 seats. And win an election. They're now saying they can't win an election because Indians are not the majority. Well, yes, Indians are not the majority, but when you add the Indians that are left in Guyana, with those who are in the 200,000 in that voters list, they have a super majority. And they know, they're telling we see crossover votes. Why they are stealing votes from the voted voters list. And Ravi Dev knows that, and he's trying to trap me in that. Ravi, no. I read the same books that you read, Ravi. I read the same books. I know all them theories that you're talking about. And you're not going to trap me into that. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. We're rolling here tonight and this entire week, and we're staying with them. Let me bring in my guest, Dion Abrams himself, a Buxtonian, long-standing member of the WPA. People like Dion, they never joined the WPA. They're born in the WPA. That is how we are in Buxton, Mr. Ali. If you didn't know that, you like to talk about a pack of jokers. They got 4 jacks in the pack, but you think they got 52. There's some feedback there from some music there. Brother Dion, you want to take care of that. And Brother Elton McCree from Bedford Wackton, BV, next door to us. Brother Elton was on the platform. He was talking about what's happening at BV. Brother Dion Abrams was the chairman, and like I said, Dion born in the WPA. I remember I taught him as a little boy at Lesson Place, but even before then. So you don't tell why we chose Buxton. You damn past people with your little nasty self. Brothers, good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Hines, and I'm happy to be on your program this evening.
My brother.
Brothers,
good evening.
You've heard my
brother. I'm happy to be here.
My long and elongated introduction. It was necessary, kept you all waiting. But there's some things I needed to clear. And we are at a crossroads in my estimation. Brother Elton, you were on that platform. You were there throughout that meeting. And so nobody has to tell you that somebody says something and so forth. And I'm putting it to both of you. What do you make, first of all, of what was said on the platform, the thrust of that meeting, and then the government response? Why is the government responding in sort of vitriolic way to a small party with 2 people coming to them? Go ahead, Elton. Elton, go ahead.
Yeah, what I have to say is that Brother Ogunse only. What I'm saying is that Brother Ogunse only responded to a declaration of war that was made on the African Guyanese population. We all know that people are being shot in their beds, people are being shot in their back, and so on. So all Brother Ogunsi is saying, hey, we gonna stop this now. We're gonna start funding and we're gonna ask the people who using against us to recognize themselves as one as being part of our system, right? So the response they are getting, the business sector, they feel, to me, in my opinion, that if black Africans become engaged in civil disobedience, then they will lose business because the majority of the shoppers are Africans, right? So they're going to lose business and it will hurt them. So they will come out. As for the government, they are looking for a place. They're looking for somebody to justify their actions, and they cannot, right? I don't have to give Anil or even Irfan satisfaction as to what Brother Gunsi say, right?
Thank you very much. And as the WPA said in its
Leon?
statement, which the media did not carry, Kaitro News ran an article. They quoted one line from the WPA statement and the rest of these articles about what others say. None of them covered our meetings, but all of a sudden, when the president and the head of the army and the AG and everybody come out and say the WPA is a big player, then the media now are left because I don't think we're a big player. They don't understand politics. That is why they would think that we are not a big player. But our friend and them know what player we are. And I repeat here tonight, Brother Dion, I repeat here tonight. We have taken on the mantle of giving leadership to the black community at this time. And we make no apologies for it. We have put in our party on the line back to back, belly to belly. We don't give a damn because we are not going to die without a fight in Guyana. Dion Abrams.
Well, David, you have mentioned a number of issues that have been plaguing the African community here in Guyana. We have been subjects to all of the atrocities that have been committed by the PPP, and you have mentioned them all, not all, because currently there are still other affronts that are taking place. But history is like that, that people who are oppressed at some point, in the Chinese, they say, what is going to break the camel's back? Um, and we believe that the PPP has done enough to the African Guyanese community. And it is on that basis, the fact that the people whom we were looking to as a strong agent within the society, to be a force to represent our people, that we are not getting the kind of representation from any direction. And when you hear the private sector is a mouthpiece of the PPP, so you don't expect them to say anything different. My problem is with people like Best and those who somehow always believe that they have to, somehow cower under the wings of the PPP whenever they make statements, and they actually drag them out and bully them into coming out in their defense for the atrocities that that party has been committing. So when we say that enough is enough, and when Brother Ogun calls on the police force and the Guyana Defense Force not to point their guns at us because they, as you have said, are part of us. They have to go back to the communities where we live and where they dwell. And so they are basically pointing their guns at their mothers, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins. And they don't know whom they're going to be shooting at and killing when they do these things. The likes of Ravi Dev, who always tries to equate some situation that is totally different. It's different when an agency sits and plans and organize that is going to go into a community to execute, black citizens. It's different from a situation where the police goes on a scene and meets a situation and responds to it and leads to an eventual shooting of an individual. But Dev always plays that game. Every time you respond to the police excesses, he seems to want to equate a situation that is totally different. We know for a fact that Quinlan Bacchus's killing was an orchestrated and organized, assassination. The same thing for the our brother in Essequibo, and these excesses have gotten to a point where we could not sit back and allow them to continue. Um, and calling on the forces, our brothers and sisters, to not point their guns at us when we are taking up, when we are defending ourselves against too much. We have gone 3 years of that, and we've had 5 years or 6 years from 2002 to 2005, even in 2007, we've lost so many lives. This administration, with Jack Dew at the helm, is one that is bent on pushing us over the line, and they have pushed us there already. History has recorded, and even today, across the world, look in Iran, what is happening. The women are fighting back. Right in Mexico, they've same thing they're doing here, manipulating the elections commission. The people are fighting back because Nandalal believes that he can go to the parliament and dictate and decide what he wants to do with GCOM, replacing staff. The same thing that they're doing in Mexico. The thousands of people, 500,000 people in Mexico City alone. All right. In Egypt, there is civil disobedience. And so when we call for these things, it's a natural response of people who are oppressed. And who is to be against us for defending ourselves and defending our people? And so it's disgusting when you hear, the hypocrites and those who are lackeys who are trying to find their way back into the PPP to get some mouth sour, making statements, condemning Takuma. But our march is on. We have to carry on with our campaign in defense of our people. We still have Peter's Hall that is there, where they're planning to go to destroy people's homes again. I don't know if you discussed that on your program, but people must be aware of these things, because if you are going to say that this bridge is to pass in Peter's Hall and people's houses are in the way, make it transparent by putting publicly on display the design for the bridge and exactly where it's going to pass to see how many houses are going to be affected and so on. They didn't do that with Maka. They're not doing it with Peter's Hall. All right? Simply because their agenda is to remove people, black people, from areas where they can thrive economically. And I don't want to be long, but even yesterday I was telling Brother Takuma that we're talking about equitable distribution of resources and so on. We're not saying equal, we're saying equitable. But they went to Luziknan only about a week or two ago. They distributed huge hampers to each household. And within those hampers, the oil money, so that they're not signing for it now as they would have had them do in previous time, but they're putting it in these hampers, putting the money in the bags and giving it to households. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes.
And so we are left without, we are left bereft. And when we ask for the Clive Thomas's proposal, which will ensure not that a section of the society receives, what amongst a part of the Buxton proposal, they are saying that it is nonsense and they cannot accept and deal with that kind of thing, whereas they're acting on it in their communities. The other side of the coin, David, is the fact that civil disobedience is nature to the PPP. We know for a fact under the Barnum administration what they used to preach and what they did in the sugar industry: burn the cane fields, destroy the factories, and all of these things. They were militant in that regard. So now they want to kill militancy when they are the dictators in the society. And we have to fight back. We have to push back because, as we have said when we were in the struggle against Barnum, when Indians and Africans believed that, they were somehow being taken advantage of, we said enough is enough. And the rallying cry was people's power, no dictator. Today, that cry is as important as it was then, that people's power, no dictator. In this case, we are saying that because of the situation of the Africans, that African power, no dictator.
Dion Abrams, WPA executive member, very clear there, very, very, very clear. Sister Novella is reminding us that I will be, along with Rickford Burke and I will be in Atlanta this coming Saturday at 6 o'clock. This coming Saturday at 6 o'clock, we are carrying the struggle wherever people are. So not just in Guyana, but outside of Guyana, we're up in the ante. So if you're in the Atlanta area, if you're in Georgia or anywhere around, it's 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. The details, they're circulating a flyer. I will have more details as the week progresses. But yes, Rickford Burke and I will be in Atlanta, Georgia this Saturday, and the WPA will be holding its next meeting in Victoria, our first village, on Sunday. So keep those two dates. If you're in Guyana, you're on the East Coast, WPA meeting on Sunday at Victoria, and if you are overseas in the Atlanta area, Rickford Burke and myself, David Hines, we will be addressing. Let's keep this pressure up. I say here, and I've said it, we don't have military capacity. We don't have the capacity for violence. If we did, we would be in the hills fighting a guerrilla fight. We don't have that. But what we do have, is the people. What we do have, it's the people. And our call to you is to act below the surface, to act where they cannot see you, to go to a place deep inside the oppressor that the oppressor cannot see, and act. If you are in some office and they're planning against us, get the word to us. That's civil disobedience. If you're a policeman and they want you to go and shoot or to kneel on black people, find a way to get out of it. The term malingering came out of the slave plantation. They want you to finish a certain amount of work in 2 hours. Malinger. You all remember that old soca song, Malinga. The term malingering came from what our foreparents used to do on the plantation, civil disobedience. Do not cooperate with them. I am not going to tell you to chase them when they come into your village. That is for Bharat. That is for Bharat. That's Bharat method. We are not telling you to chase them. But when they walk into your village, flash. Let your face become a flashing blade. Your facial expression. Black women talk with their bodies, their shoulders. Give them the shoulder. Give them the stance of black resistance. And let them wonder what is coming next. Let them wonder what is coming next. I say it here tonight. If it continues, we will raise the ante if it continues. They don't want to meet us in church. They don't want to meet us at Sunday school. They won't want to meet us at the boardroom. We will meet them wherever they decide to meet. Not another drop of black blood, not another nail from a black home. And we are watching them at Peter's Hall. We are watching them. And I say to them, Irfan, call your dogs off. If you don't, we will have no alternative, to quote Dr. Martin Luther King, than to respond to your bra-ha-ha. You hear it from the WPA here tonight. You hear it from us. You heard it from us at Buxton and at Golden Grove and then Amstel. And to those beautiful people at Moko who gave us such a warm welcome on that first night. They stood in the rain waiting for us. And a young PNC member told me in Buxton, Dr. Hines, we thought when the leader of the opposition was finished, people would have go home, but they waited to hear you, and you could have heard a pin drop. And I said to that young man, I said, as political people, we have to understand our people. Our people have been ready. All they were waiting on is the leadership. And WPA, yes, they say we are punching outside of our weight range. Politics is not about what weight range you're in. Politics is to be able to sense the moment, time, place, and persons. And the persons must be able to absorb the energies of the people and give voice to it. Brother Elton, they're selling out your lands in BV. They're taking your lands in BV, ancestral lands, and selling it out. And you have been a singular voice in the tradition of civil disobedience, saying, no, you shall not sell our land. Elton, talk to us.
Yes, good night again, and thanks for being here. Now, as we have discussed earlier, I'm here to discuss the lands in BV. What is happening recently is the revelation of some lands that were sold by council in 2019 thereabout. Those lands are located in North Triumph. You see, when this council got into office, what they found is that I should back up a bit. Around 2005, a, a group of people who wanted housing lands approached the council. They had formed a co-op and they identified some lands north of the public road, which is owned by the village. And these people, they were able to get the permission from the council to utilize those lands. It happened that they could not have gotten access to the lands because the only access they had seen then was an access by building a bridge across the the drainage canal that runs north of the Triumph Public Road. That is just after the drainage pump. If you're coming from the west, just after the drainage pump. And if you're coming from if you're coming from the east, if you're coming from the west, the location is just after the Muslim cemetery north of the public road. So they wanted to build a bridge there. And this would have meant Central Housing and Planning Authority would have been would need to give them that permission. But that was never authorized, so the lands remained. The group, which comprised about, at the time, 19 African brothers and sisters, 6 Indian brothers and sisters, and 1 Amerindian brother, they had the land surveyed and demarcated. Only they did not, what they applying for it as a co-op, it would have been a block transport. And apparently, because they did not get the permission to advance their cause, they left it there. The present council, when they got into office, they recognized that the lands were there, and but now, because of what was done by another some people, Northern Tribe, their road was built in Triumph North to access some lands. They realized that all they needed to do was extend the road into the area. So they thought, the talk was there. Some people heard that they wanted to do this thing. We heard about the lottery. They said it would have been a lottery for the lands. I need to say that initially they should have been 21 house lots, but when they measured, they realized that they could have fitted 26. But this council only indicated to the notified that there were 21 house lots to be raffled to the community. However, everybody I know who are not associated with the council were told that by the time they got there, because they limited the number of people who should participate in that raffle to 30. By the time they applied, they said we had 30 people. I cannot understand, if you have lands to raffle to the community, why you will only limit it to the first 30 people. You said you have 21 house lots, just let people come on. And so when they went and they surveyed the place, they actually found, because of not going through using the bridge across the canal and coming from the northern end, they were able to establish more than 26 house lots. They got 35, and one which they refer to as Plot JB. That was when the surveys were done. Plot JB, as you will recognize, indicates the initials of the chairman, Jamal Bagot. So he actually identified a plot there as is. Now, if one should look at the results of that raffle, it will be very astounding, because we were told of 21 house lots. At the end of the day, the chairman and his immediate relatives, they corralled 10 of those house lots. Do you want me to repeat? The chairman got 10 out of 21 house lots that were known to be available.
10.
He and his immediate relatives.
Wow.
And it was a lottery, by the way. But what is also striking, since I got onto the council, I heard that there was a short listing after the 30 applicants. I've never heard of a raffle in which people shortlisted.
Shortlist. Yes.
You
yes.
shortlist from a raffle.
Elton, I know you haven't gone through all of the story, but tonight is a ticklish night. I'm on Sherrod, which has already started. I'm on Sherrod, so I can't go. I can't go late. But I'm going to bring you back late in the week, probably on Wednesday, for us to continue. So note where you stop. Dion, you're going to come back tomorrow night, along with some other guests. And Elton, I'm going to have you back on Wednesday night. But I can't go over tonight because I can't split myself in two. If I can be in two places at the same time. You all know this. You all know this song. Right. So thank you all for coming out tonight. I see Sister Myrna Peterkin is on tonight, former member of parliament of the PNC. I think she's a sister or a relative to Sister Robin Simon, sister, know that
Or sister.
we give full solidarity to Sister Robin. She doesn't belong to our party, but she's a victim. And we give full solidarity. And we are going to make sure that that sister is defended and protected. Thank you all so much for coming out in large numbers tonight. We continue the conversation tomorrow night. I've got to go because brother Sherrod is waiting on me. So again, thank you all so much. We continue tomorrow.